Alright, continuing our investigation of how NPAPI works in FireBreath in 5-minute increments, which is much, much harder than it sounds, by the way. We're going to look at the NPAPI browser host, what it is and how it's used, and why I do it that way. So when we create the browser host, we pass in the plugin module instance and we pass in the NPP. So let's go look at the NPAPI browser host object itself. Notice there's a lot on here. Down here, these are kind of the NPAPI functions themselves. So there is a function in here for every function pointer that the browser gives us that we use. But you'll notice that there's no NPN, and you don't ever pass in an NPP. That's because the browser host instance already knows what the NPP is. In fact, it's right here. So what we do in this object is every time we get a call, it's going to basically pull out it's going to check to see if we have it, and it's going to pull the NPP out of our current object and then pass it through. So that it saves us a parameter that we don't have to keep track of anymore. You no longer have to track which plugin instance you're dealing with because that's just taken care of in the object. We also add some utility functions for detecting what type it is. Now, one of the big things that we have to do is we have to convert between an NP variant and a FireBreath variant, and vice versa. So that's what we're going to do here. So we're just saying get variant. It goes through, it converts the object, it pulls the bool val or the int val or the double val, puts it into an FB variant, and returns it. We also have to do it the other way around. There's also some things that browser hosts supplies, such as evaluate JavaScript, that are platform specific. There's some things like deferred release, where if an NPObject API object, which is it's an NP object that's wrapped in something that gives it a JS API-like interface, if that goes away on a secondary thread, you can't call any of these NPAPI functions, these NPN functions down here, have to be called on the main thread. You'll notice there's an assert main thread on most of those. That's a no-op in release mode, but on debug mode, it's going to make sure that these aren't getting called on the main thread. The conversion from an FB variant into an NP object is actually going to be probably its own video, but that's kind of what's in here. There's a shutdown that then knows how to deal with these things. The async calls, which is the plugin thread async call, it's going to check to make sure that the browser hasn't been shut down before using that. When we set the browser funcs, we're going to then get the window NP object, the plugin element NP object, and then also get the document down here. That's how we get the DOM access. And then here you can see where we wrap those in the FB DOM document and window and element wrappers. So basically here you have everything in this object that is specific to this browser. You have the browser-specific implementation. And since we pass this host around, we can then use that to make cross-thread calls. We can use it to access browser APIs, etc. Although we try, when we're doing things such as this evaluate JavaScript, we try to abstract that so that all of these functions down here, even though they're technically public, these are not things that you should ever need to call directly. If you are calling them directly, you're going to lose compatibility with IE, because there's also an ActiveX browser host that we'll talk about when and if I ever get around to writing to doing the ActiveX side of this. So that's the NPAPI browser host. Hopefully that makes a bit of sense. This is created when the plugin instance is created. It's destroyed when the plugin instance is destroyed. So if you're holding on to a shared pointer to it, you need to be really careful to make sure that you preserve that lifetime. This is also, you'll see a little bit about this retain JS API, get JS API wrapper is another one that's important. When we create an NP JavaScript object, which we'll talk about next, we're going to store it in the browser host so that we don't create a new one the next time we use it. So we'll do NP object API.